Scano. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for your patience. You never know what happens when spirit and technology come together. So to begin this evening, I'd like to just acknowledge acknowledge the natural world through Thanksgiving and just sharing the gratitude I have for being able to gather the people. And so I acknowledge all of you who are joining us this evening and these amazing people that I've just spent an hour and a half with in the back room, organizing and speaking, getting to know each other. This is a really beautiful series, and it's an honor to meet everyone. I'd also like to acknowledge Mother Earth, and the reason why we're here is to listen, and her heartbeat guides us into gathering together like this, and the waters that continue to flow around us and also speak to us. Those waters keep us alive and keep us well. The fish in those waters that clean the waters for us, they also provide food for us. We give gratitude to all of these beautiful energies and beings that Mother Earth provides for us. And those plants, the plant medicine that's out there, the food plants, the medicine plants, the medicine herbs, the animals that also feed us and take care of us. We give gratitude to all of those beautiful beings in the world that provide nourishment and sustenance for us. We give gratitude. The trees that stand tall, that remind us when we see them that we too stand tall, and we are connected to our roots, and we're connected to the spirit world and all of those beautiful stars above. We're connected to everything, to everyone, through technology and through the air that we breathe. Those birds that remind us every morning that our job here on earth is to bring joy, look for those beautiful things in life. And it's just a joy to be able to sit here and remind people, for my elders and those ones that came before me that share these teachings and these gifts, to remind us that we're connected to all of everything, the winds, the thunders, everything that continues to move through our land and our waters, and even us in our bodies, the vibration that we feel when that thunder comes. It also reminds us to continue to move and vibrate. And so I give gratitude to everything that I've mentioned. And Grandfather's sun, that's been shining so brightly in our community and around the world. He rises every day to remind us that we have a new day and that we can move forward, and we have a chance to create beauty another day. And then the grandmother moon, who continues in her cycle to remind us and of how we're to live in this world through our cycles, and know that it's that harmony of the cycles that keeps us going in life. And then I acknowledge the stars again, the enlightened teachers and the Creator who brought us all together, especially in this time right now, that the grandmothers and the grandfathers are speaking to us, sharing the wisdom that they've, I want to say, preserved for many years. Welcome, Scano. My name is Jody Harbour. I'm one of the founders of Grandmother's Voice. It's an honor to be here with each of you tonight, and those of you who will be gathering with us later, gathering in ceremony, lifted by the heartbeat of Mother Earth and held in the sacred presence of our ancestors. Each week, we'll gather on Mondays in this circle with grandmothers and grandfathers from across the 7 continents, elders whose lives are rooted in sacred knowledge, ancestral memory, and a deep commitment to healing, truth, and spirit. Their voices carry the wisdom we need in these times. Wisdom born not of theory, but in lived experiences of ceremony and the connection to land and spirit. This is not just a series, it's a remembering. It's a weaving of story and spirit. And now's the time. The weaving of the story and spirit that's calling us back to who we are and to who we're becoming. So to listen, to honor the voices of the elders who've carried these teachings for us to be here. So Yawa, and thank you for joining us.
Okay, thank you, Jody. Thank you very much. And for those of you who don't know me, and I thought I would know everybody, but last Monday, our first night, I realized that I don't. And so I'm going to begin this time by introducing myself to you. My name is Grandmother Susan Ka'iolani Stanton. I'm born on the Ahupua of Punaluu on the island of Oahu in Hawaii. My grandfather, Edwin House, was of the Six Nations of the Grand River Haudenosaunee. And so I'm really blessed to be bicultural, but it's even more than that. I believe I'm internationally multicultural. And so the blessing of being here to be with all of you is that we have 51 more weeks after tonight to keep going. And we're going to have elders, grandmothers, and grandfathers from all 7 continents who are going to be joining us as we cycle through this amazing year ahead of us. So tonight I get the opportunity to introduce, but for now, first, I'm going to put this time over to Kwame Sunhorse to take as much time as he would like to open us with ceremony and prayer.
Idama, and the family. Honor. My name is Kwame Sunhorse. I am Wakesa Wanka. I am just a humble man at service of our people. And I'm honored to open this with prayer. We burn, I'm burning some sage, but it's buffalo sage, which is harvested up there in North Dakota and all up in that way. It's not the white sage out of California. And I like that because it's the sage we use in Sundance. And it's very, very powerful sage. It's all sacred herbs. And with it, I call Wakantanka Ochimalo, Wichane Shankualo. And I call the energy of the east, and I call that's where the sun rises. And this is where our day begins. And this is what represented by the color yellow. It represents the yellow nation. And so we began in the east, and you turn right. And if you ever get lost, if you face in the sun, if you turn right, your directions will come to you. If you turn right facing the sun, you'll face south. And so when you turn right, we're facing south. Wakantaka Ochimalo, Wichane Shankualo. To the direction of the south, represented by the color red. It represents the red nations on Inamaka. And those people are our ancestors, and we are honoring them and honoring our sacred ways. And that is the stage of life. The yellow is the birthing, that's the infant. And the direction of the south represents the red. The red nation represents the youth. It rests the seeds planted into the red earth, and it begins to grow. And so if you face the south and you turn to the right, you will be facing to the west. And we call to the direction of the west, Wakataka Ochimala, Wichane Shankualo. And that the West is represented by the color black. It represents the black nations, the people of the other continents, and the people of the dark hues on this planet Earth. But it also represents where the thunder beings and the rains come from to come and drench the earth and put water on the seeds in the south to help them grow. It washes the baby when it comes into the world. And it's also where the ancestors go when we cross, when we leave this earthly plane, we travel to the west. And so when we stand and look in the direction of the west, we give thanks for all that comes, because she spoke about the thunder beings, and she spoke about the energies there that comes out of the west that brings us our water, that we replenish ourselves, because out of the west, the ancestors go, but the memory of the water brings back the memory of the water hose, memory and consciousness. And so from the west, we get our memory and consciousness that circulates with us. And as we stand looking at the direction of the west, we will turn right and we face the direction of the north. The north is represented by the color white, is represented by the white nations. It is the nation of the keepers of the fire. And that is where, because of the cold there in the top of the mountains and the Arctic, is where the north is. And so there you keep the fire to keep warmth and to grow. And so this is where you sit and you come to the three other directions as you stand in direction of the west. That is the adult, that is the procreator, that's the parents. And so we grow, and as we grow, we go to the direction of the north, that we become the elders, and we sit there, the wisdom of the elders in the north. And therein lies that we have one journey to do, that when we turn right again, we will go back to being the child, and we will leave from the east and go across to the west and join the ancestors. And so that is the circle of life. Those are the four directions, the four colors, the four stages of life, in which we honor that. That's why everything is done in the circle. And so it is an honor, and I thank you, Susan, and I thank me being here to honor the grandmothers. You know, one man and three of the females. I'm like, yes, dear. So I end with that, and I thank you, Susan, for allowing me to share.
Thank you very much, Brother Kwame. It is a gift and a blessing to hear you every time that you speak and share anything. So thank you for that. And you are here with us by literally divine design, because I prayed, as you know, you'll see as it unfolds, I prayed hard to know who would be coming and how to go about doing this, because it's bigger than anything that I can express. The things that you have to share, both of you, these are things that cannot be duplicated anywhere. But we have to record them. We have to keep them. We have to remember them. We have to be able to pass them on. And so what you have to share tonight, and I don't want to put a burden on you, but what you have to share tonight will be reverberating for a long, long, long time to come. And it'll be there in times when our children and our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren are needing to hear them. And so we have them here tonight to be here, these words that you're sending out, both of you. And I'm truly grateful for that. I want to begin with Romola. I'm always going to regret, for the moment, until I actually get to hug her. We had an opportunity to meet in Nebraska with John Papan, and we know John, and I was so excited, and then I couldn't go. I have had a bit of a rocky road these last couple of years, so as it turned out, I wasn't able to go, but I have followed you and watched you for many, many years, and there is no one like you. You're different than anybody. And I can say that about almost everybody, but I love having this opportunity to introduce you. For those of you who are watching, I'm not going to give a big bio about her because I've already posted that. So please take a look at that if you'd like. But she is East Indian, and I've always dreamed of going to East India. So she's East Indian, and she was born in South Africa. And I've always wanted to do that. We've got a friend, Beata, who is, many of us know Beata, and she's in the process of walking from South Africa to Mongolia alone across Africa. She's counting on it taking 8 to 9 years. And so our beautiful Romola has come, and she's come here to Turtle Island. She's been living in Canada since 1970. And the things that she has done with her lifetime and continues to do are just beautiful. And there's a richness to her that you can see just by looking in her face, that she has so much to share with us. And so without taking any more time, I would like to turn that over to you.
Good evening, Ray. Thank you, Susan. Thank you, Jody. Thank you, Kwame. It's an honor and a pleasure to be with you here today and with the larger circle that you've gathered. Indeed, a big honor, but I have to say I was approaching it with some huge trepidation today, because I've felt like rather despondent the last several years. And it's perhaps because I'm so old. So yes, Susan, I have been in Canada since 1970, and this particular weekend is pretty important to me in four particular contexts. One, the 6th of August will mark 55 years since I've been in Canada, in North America. And though I am of East Indian roots, I really don't know India. I don't know my Indian heritage very well. I was born in South Africa, but I'm not African. And so that tempers my understanding of Africa. And in fact, it was only when I really became involved in Indigenous justice issues in Canada that I began to understand my historical roots in South Africa and elsewhere. And that understanding was augmented when I met and learned with Grandfather William Commanda. And so in part, my presentation is talking about that experience over the last 55 years, coming to terms with life in Canada. It's also special for me because on the 3rd of August, yesterday, marks 14 years since Grandfather William Commanda passed. And I met him in 1997, and he transformed my life entirely, and I became just entirely dedicated to his work during the last 15 years of his life and thereafter. So really, I continued to work for and on his behalf. This would also be the weekend of his annual gatherings in Maniwaki. He started doing gatherings actually in 1967, but the series that are linked with the Circle of All Nations work began in 1996, a year before I actually met him. And when I met him during my own Indigenous justice work, he invited me to a gathering. Initially, I was a bit reluctant to go to the spiritual gathering that he was hosting. And when he asked me about that, I said, well, I'm not exactly looking for anything spiritual. And he said, well, anyone can learn, And so I kind of like packed a station wagon with my foam headboard. I bought granola bars and orange juice, and I went camping. And that is actually how I began to understand the depth of the work of William Commanda. And after that, that exposure to that gathering in 1997, I never looked back on the importance of that meeting of people. And the gatherings continued for 15 years till he died in 2011. Then we continued to meet sometimes on the land, sometimes in office buildings, but the larger community didn't understand the importance of the earth-based learning and teaching that grandfather initiated for us. So my efforts at continuing his gatherings was stalled by COVID. And we then did some online gatherings, and yeah, so that has been the challenge, one of the challenges of the last several years. But this weekend, I'm remembering the gatherings was transformative for all those people who attended, because we learned really how to make peace as we got to know each other better each year. We learned why he was doing the gatherings, and it was because he wanted to acquaint us all with his Mother Earth. He found people like me were now occupying his land, but without any direct connection with his Mother Earth. And I could understand that even more because I had no direct connection with my South African heritage. So I had to find a pathway to understanding the importance of Mother Earth to somebody like Grandfather Commanda. And and that has, of course, been like such a tremendous, tremendous gift. Um, this weekend is also important to me because it marks the passing on the 6th of August of my very good friend, our very good friend, Donald Marshall Jr., who was the voice who introduced Indigenous justice to Canada because he was incarcerated for a murder he hadn't committed for 11 years, and he fought very hard himself to have Canada awaken to the injustice towards Indigenous peoples. He also later fought for Indigenous rights. So in my opinion, he's the most important historical figure in Canada. But sometimes people have forgotten that big work he did for justice before Hurricane Carter, before those other voices became so important in terms of wrongfully convicted people. And I was watching your video from last week, your presentation from last week, to prepare myself for this. And I know the prayer for people in the prisons was heartfelt by one of the elders who presented there. And I always acknowledge Donald Marshall's sacrifice and teachings and his efforts to create, like Grandfather Commanda, a culture of peace. So these are the reasons that this particular moment is important to me. But let me fast forward now. I came to Canada and I studied literature. So I understood Canada and South Africa and America through literature first. And my interest in Indigenous issues went back to my thesis on the novels of a South African writer. And I talked about the detribalization in the works of Peter Abrams. And 55 years later, the issues are still the same in so many parts of the world. But what has happened in the last maybe half a dozen years here in North America and in Canada is we're finally awakened to listening to the voices of Indigenous peoples. And so I must thank you people for sparking some of that effort. Susan, I know, participated in some of your work in the last few years, and it's so important, and I can see that voice rising. I worked then in the prisons for most of my adult life at all levels, maximum, minimum security programs, policy, etc. And then I became involved in Indigenous justice. And along the way, I met Grandfather Commanda. And a lot of important restorative justice work was initiated by Indigenous peoples in the 90s and also stalled. And likewise, Grandfather Commanda had a vision for an Indigenous healing and peace building center. And it moved along the threads to gain a lot of support from a lot of people internationally, as well as here. That's my nephew from China calling me. But and despite a lot of advances in the peace building, in the awareness of environmental issues, he's persistent. Sorry about that. I found it very hard the last several years that the efforts of so many people haven't resulted in the kinds of peace and hope that we've wanted, that we worked so hard to shift. And so our preparation for today lightened my mood a little bit because I began to see nonetheless there is still hope in what we do. And I don't want to suggest that I've had a rough go of it. During the last 6 to 8 months, I've been on the road constantly, and including with my family in China. And it's been really great. But there's been a real gap because there's still so much for me to worry about in terms of the fires, the smoke that's right on my doorstep here, but also the fires impacting the communities in northern Manitoba, where we did justice work 35 years ago and couldn't make a change. Sorry. Yeah. So I was hoping to share a little bit about William Commanda in this presentation, because I really come to these circles because of my long-term work with him. He created a circle of all nations, a culture of peace. Sorry. Hi, Marlon. I'll call you right back. Okay. See the circle of interconnection. Thank you very much, Kwame, for that discussion about the medicine wheel and the colors. And if folk go to our website, they'll see the conceptual medicine wheel that guides our work. Reflects many of those themes. And here I want to show you on a piece of birch bark a strawberry medicine wheel that grandfather used to take along when he taught people things. And you can see he tied the ribbons on to suggest some of that circular motion, consistent really with the energies of Mother Earth. And so all our work was grounded in the conceptual teachings consistent with the laws of nature, And I say grandfather made friends with people like me, the outsiders, to introduce us to a relationship of respect with his mother, because he did not find that that was what was happening in his land. And together with that came the energy for the peace building and the peace building relationships. And after he died, I went back to school to register some of the thinking of this most remarkable carrier of sacred wampum belt heritage, a spiritual warrior for many years. He's the person who created the North American Indigenous Nations government back in the 1945s with a friend of his who actually had his birthday on the 3rd of August. That's how energies interconnect. But it's those efforts that resulted in the civil rights movement, in the kind of impact it had on Mahatma Gandhi, on Nelson Mandela, on Martin Luther King, all the other activists. But it was seeded by the indigenous peoples. So grandfather played a role in that. He played a role in multiple things to bring the global consciousness aware of environmental issues, so that we would not treat Mother Earth as a commodity to be endlessly accessed, but to develop a relationship of respect. So I'll finally finish off then with a few key words. The idea of reflection, reflexivity, is very much part of his thinking. And we've tried to suggest that that is where the wampum teachings, that's where the ceremonial pipe ceremonies and things brought him to a deeper understanding of his place and our place, perhaps, in Earth and amongst humanity. The relationships, the building of relationships with Mother Earth, with the energies of the plant world, the stone world, things like that were really a part of his teaching. And the respect first for oneself. And that was always very important, because then the teaching was that once you respect yourself, you're not going to do things that permit you to be disrespectful to others. And so those were the kind of grounding teachings that led to his creation of a Circle of All Nations, a culture of peace. And he believed that we needed to all come together with one heart, one mind, one love, and one determination to create such a circle. This is the work I kind of try to do by linking the grassroots knowledge, the work, and the co-created knowledge of people from the street all over the place who are part of his network, as well as to plant those seeds in the academic world, as well as to create a website where people can just look at his photos, his images, and understand something about the depth of Indigenous thinking that he wanted shared. And so it's through these avenues I try to continue to project the Circle of All Nations work. And I'd just like to finish off with this little note about the work I'm currently doing in South Africa. And it's a children's mapping project. And it permits children to think about their place on Mother Earth, locational issues. And what they're talking about, we have found, is what they need protection from. So they are doing cognitive mapping, story mapping. And that is bringing a whole new energy to creating that legacy of hope that Grandfather Commanda wished for all children. So thank you very much for permitting me to share. If there are any questions, I could respond now. I don't think I've given any chance for Jody to show anything of our PowerPoint presentation, but we can find that on the website or something at a later stage. Happy to respond to any questions since I've just been so charged with this. Now or later.
I'm going to attempt to try to share some of this. I've been playing in the background. I just have to say, you're so engaging. And Grandmother Susan was like, "Are you going to put her on full screen?" But I just love how I felt like you were speaking right to me. And I really believe that the people that are listening feel the same way. They're just beautiful messages saying, it's like, what a joy to hear this. And it really, truly is hearing how you're keeping the legacy of Elder Commanda alive. And this is so important. Everything that you've been speaking of is the work that we do at Grandmother's Voice. And it really is about beginning within. So I will share some more of these messages at the end, but I would like to attempt, for those of you watching, I've been navigating with my non-dominant hand for the last 6 weeks. So Romola sent me a really beautiful PowerPoint, and I'd like to at least try to attempt to share screen. And even if it is some of my my computer, you'll see, that's okay. I'm okay with that. So let's just see if this works. Can you see anything, people? Let me know when you can.
Not yet.
Nope. Okay, just a second here. I think I just deleted it. So from my page here. And I do feel like we're rushing a little bit, and you don't really need to. If there's something that you want to share, well, I'm just kind of putzing with this right now. That would be great. Grandmother Susan. Let me just see here.
Sure. Okay. Well, first of all, Romola, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing what you did. And I'd like to know a little bit more what really has touched me about the work you've done, in addition to William Commanda. And I don't know if you know, but several years ago now, we were heading up to come to the gathering up there at his place. And we made it to the border at Niagara Falls, and we were turned back because someone that had come with us had an old, years and years back, infraction with the law. And for some reason, it popped up and we were not allowed to come back or to cross over. And we had a couple who had come all the way from New Zealand to come to that gathering to meet you and Grandfather. And we had a choice. And the man who couldn't come across said, "Go ahead. You guys go ahead. I'll take the bus back down to the Midwest." And I looked at everybody and I said, "No, we don't do that. We don't leave one man behind. We stay together." So none of us were able to make it up there, but we ended up on Serpent Mound doing a beautiful although slightly illegal, pipe ceremony on the head of the serpent. And we prayed for you, and we prayed for grandfather, and we prayed for everyone who was there for the gathering. So while we weren't there, we were there. And just like now, you did the same thing for us again. But I did want to say how much I honor and respect the work that you've done with the people in correctional facilities, because I have 25 years behind bars as a prison counselor myself, and grandfather Kwame is the same way. So with that, thank you. Now you can share with us some more about grandfather Commanda.
Okay.
Can you see everything I'm sharing?
Yes.
Yes,
Like,
we
can you
can
see
now.
what I have on?
Yes.
Okay, is there something you'd like me to play or
Are you
share?
going to play that excerpt? It's from the National Film Board documentary about grandfather,
Sure.
actually filmed at La Macasa Institution in Quebec, federal institution in Quebec. It's in French with the English translation. But that little clip, Susan, will help you understand me with respect to Indigenous. Please
Nice.
go ahead.
Okay.
Je ne voudrais pas d'assimiler une autre nation. Comme le Canadien, je ne suis pas Canadien, je suis Nord-Américain. Même je ne suis pas Indien, je ne viens pas des Indes. Alors, Nord-Amérique, oui, c'est moi. Nord-Américain.
You can turn it off now. Thanks so much, Jody. I usually like to show that because I like to have grandfather's drumming, Susan.
Yes. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you. That was so beautiful. And truly, Romola, you carry him in you with all the work that you're doing. And I know that for those of us who didn't get to meet him, including our grandchildren and their grandchildren, through you and the things that you share, we do get to meet him. So thank you. Thank you for that. I'm not sure, Jody, about what you're doing about questions and answers. So with your permission, I'm just going to go ahead and move on. My dog is going a little crazy.
I just wanted to share that.
Oh, yes.
I was just sharing a couple of messages. Yeah.
Perfect.
Amazing. And I think you can find it all on the website here.
Perfect.
Right? There's
Beautiful.
more information. And I put it in the chat, and you'll be able to revisit it after. So, yeah.
And that is really, to me, the message that I would like to put around you, Romola, is that when we have our elders, they pass to us things that are beyond tangible, but then we become those teachings too. So thank you for that. I appreciate that. It's beautiful. Very well done. Thank you. So now the next person we have, and it's not to leave one for the other because there is no leaving here, will be our grandfather, Kwame Sunhorse. And I have known him for a couple of years, maybe, I don't know how many, a few. And we connect through White Bison, which is the well variety program started by Don Goyas. And I became a fire starter 25 years ago and have walked in that world through the prisons. I took it into maximum and minimum and county detention to juvenile corrections to women's prison on Oahu. And I took it into death row. And I worked with an inmate there who I adored. I adored him. And he was minimal in his ability to comprehend. And because of White Bison and the love that I could give him through those teachings, I believe that there was a shift in him. So I'm grateful for that. And Kwame is the elder for White Bison, and his years and years in the same world, Romola, as us in so many ways. Yeah, nothing is random. This is not an accident that we're all on here together. I apologize for my raccoon. He's being a total maniac tonight. I'm not quite sure why, but he's firing up the dog too. So. But with that, my brother Kwame, I also met him. I think I met him physically for the first time down in Grain Valley, down with Forrest Liggett and the work that was being done at the Indian Center there. And with grandmother Dawn Skyweaver, she was there at that time too, and Gina Miranda and so many others. And that's the beauty of what we're doing now, because we're all woven together. None of this is by accident that we're all speaking. So with that, again, I'm going to encourage everyone to go to the bios that we put on and get more if you'd like there. And then you see some sites, some of the websites that they have. And, you know, we never stop being the message, because now it's part of us, just like the water. So with that, Brother Kwame, I turn it over to you.
Miigwech, as it says in the north, but Pidama. And I'm very honored. And Romola, I'm very much honored by the teachings that were given to you to carry, to give to us. This is the way the descendants, now ancestors, descendants, now ancestors. The first letter of each one of those words is DNA. And that's how we continue through the DNA. And in that part of the DNA activation is what we're having now, because what we're using right now is the techno-spiritual. But what we have been privy to understand, and you received in your teachings, just as I received in mine from other elders, is that Inamaka, Mother Earth. You talked about your teachings from your teacher, teaching you about the connectedness of his mother. And his mother was Earth. And Earth is a very important word, because in the word Earth is the word heart, Hearth, is the word hear, Hear, is the word ear, to hear, is the word art, is the word tear, is the word the tear that we receive from the message of the heart. We hear by staying, what the elders tell us is that to think with your heart. The heart knows before the brain, because the brain is no more than what you call the air traffic control for the rest of the other 7 brains in our endocrine system. And each one has a brain, but the heart is the seat of the will. And so it's in that connectedness. And what we're now doing, what you're doing in the north, and what we're doing on the planet, on the earth, is that what we're doing is that we're decolonizing. What we're doing is understanding that we need decolonizing therapy, because we've all been colonized by invaders into our lands. And what we're having to do now is how to deconstruct the part of what has happened. Because if you take colonize, you take the first 5 letters of colonize, COLON, that's colon. What comes out of your colon? And what's put into the colon? So we have been, that feces of a disease that has been perpetuated to a people that were here and overstood on their land who they were and their ancestral way. You carry and you understand the wampum belt. but you also understand from the teachings before you didn't acknowledge the part of ancestry with the Indian, but the South African. But in that part of the South Africa is where the part of Stephen Biko, you know, the Soweto riots, those things that happened there. But also when you study what they have studied and researched and show is that the human DNA, that's why I went back to descendants, now ancestors. Those descendants that are now ancestors started in South Africa. That small woman that they call a pygmy, the sand people, when they did the research, Emory University here in Georgia, Berkeley in California, and Oxford in England took 144 placentas from women around the world. All nations they took from. And they took those placentas and they gene coded the code to find out there's only one woman on the planet that has the original origin of all human DNA, and that's that South African woman. So it's a very powerful part in which this awakening that we are now having with the shifting of the ages, because what we're looking at, and even when you go back to India and the Indian in India, the Kali Yuga and the 2012 had just ended. The 2012 ended the Mayan long count and the Egyptian, and it's 27,000 years in the Kali Yuga, and it's 2,120 years in the Mayan long count. They both had a calendar to tell when this time was coming to an end. And what we're doing is that we're having a rebirth. And this is very powerful too, because in the Mayan calendar, the 52 years is the long count. This program will be 52 sessions. That 52 sessions means that there will be a rebirthing of these energies. So what we're now doing as elders, because as an elder, we only have one other job to become, is to become an ancestor. And we have to stop being generational thieves. And what we have to do is pass on what our elders had taught us, and being able to give that, but also to be able to look at the teachings that are now available. There's a First Nation in Canada, decolonization and self-determination. His name is Mark Aquash, Aquash. He's at the University of Columbia. And what he is talking about is the decolonization of information and how we were miseducated with the missionary schools and the ways in which they came in. And we talk about the prison system. Reservations are prisons, because that land that once was our ancestors' land now has been colonized and taken, and now we've been put on land saying that we can't come off of this part because they now have authority over us, but we still recognize as a nation. That's captivity. That's imprisonment. When you take a man's will away from him, you make him a slave. And so this is the part that we're now realizing. And there's another powerful brother. His name is Michael Yellowbird. And what he wrote this book, it's called For the Indigenous Mind, a decolonizing workbook. And it shows how we have to begin to look at how we get back to understanding our way, our cultural way. You know, I came up there to Susan's a couple of years ago for the grandmother's gathering, and that's where I met Gail and a few others that were there. But the grandmothers came there, and there was a teaching. One grandmother was teaching us, saying that we should not eat anything that is not packaged in nature's food. I mean, nature's packaging. We should not be eating anything that does not come in nature's packaging, because the way in which we have been captive is by our diet. They're attacking us at the cellular level now. And what we're having to look at is to harvest, because she gave us the story of gathering acorns, and you gather the acorns and you boil the acorns and then you dry them out, and then you pound those acorns until you make a flour, and you take that flour and you make the bread, you make the pancakes, you make the food to feed the people from its own packaging, which is the acorn. And then when you feed them that seed that you have eaten, when that seed is put into Mother Earth and it's given the nutritions and the minerals, it will grow into an oak tree. If we eat the acorn, we are given the food to grow with the strength of an acorn. These are our ways. And so what we're having to do in this decolonization, and there's some more excellent books, and especially there is DeLorean. You're going to see me pulling out books, because this is the way I have to start doing it. Because, yes, I can talk, and I had the slides, because we got to understand, too, God is red. You know, they came and they gave us a creator that doesn't look like us. Because what they did was, in giving us a creator that looked like us, then they were attempting to do this. Genocide the mind. Because we're looking at, if you don't like yourself and you're looking at that other person as being greater than you, then what you're doing is you're being told red earth, white lies. Because we understood, we had a connection, because we have to understand that they're trying to capture the soul, which they cannot capture the soul, but they can give us so much damage. Because what is it doing? We got to learn how to heal the soul of our people. Because Susan spoke of white bison Don Coyas. And in the history of us, I'm a recovering alcoholic and addict. And the part for me in understanding that what I did to myself when I came home from Vietnam, and the part for me understanding the pouring of the spirits. You know, in Latin, the word for alcohol is spiritus. This is why you find on bottles, and they have places that sell liquor, they call it houses of spirit. It's because they've taken the man, they did what they said in 1750 when our indigenous people of the First Nations saw the braves and what was happening to the people by drinking that. They called it the mind changer. And what they began to do is develop a program. What AA copied from is to be able to look at how did the spiritual teachings of the ceremonies in which we did in order to bring that man back to his spirit and to remove those spirits that he was putting in himself. Because emotional incarceration is worse than being in the iron house. Emotional incarceration is worse than being in the iron house. Because you have the freedom outside, but you are so trapped inside of yourself and not caring who you are that you will destroy you rather than anyone that looks like you, in fear of that you're not equal to that which was the white lie. So it's the decolonization of the diet, is the decolonization of the spiritual teachings and ceremonies, and it's the spiritual teachings of our reconnection to Ina Maka and to the Sky Nations, because we understood the Sky Nation more so than any other people, because Susan is from the people of the waters in the Pacific, and they knew how to navigate by the stars and by just the currents in the ocean. And I studied, my Sundance teacher, his name was Chief Light Golden Eagle, and he taught this, the Lakota star knowledge, because they have been owning the knowledge they've got from the ancestral teachings for 52,000 years. 52,000 years of star knowledge that they have been able to teach. And most indigenous people of this earth understood as above, so below, as within, so without. So in understanding the oneness of who you are, you will be able to disconnect from that captivity and refine yourself. Because what Bob Marley says, none but ourselves can free our mind. And what we're looking at as elders and what we're doing and coming up and doing these programs such as this is going on for 52 weeks. Because 5 and 2 is 7, and 7 is a very powerful number. Because the human body makes itself over every 7 years. All your blood cells change over and they grow back. The second 7, you come onto the earth, you come from a fetus in 7 months in the womb, and then you come onto the earth for 7 years, and then you learn how to connect with the earth and your people. And then the next 7 years is your initiation, because your body now was put, the eggs and the sperm were put into your body while you were in the womb, that was going to become the next 7 generations. The next 7, we always speak of, we have to do and say what is going to affect the next 7 generations. And so it's very important how we overstand to free the mind and the spirit of a people. And the thing, what it is that the 4 prophecy says the eagle will land on the moon. Don Koyas worked for NASA in the engineering department, and he tells the story that he took an eagle feather and put it into the rover that they were going to put on and send to the moon in order to make sure that the eagle landed on the moon. And then you've got the eagle will land on the moon. The spider will spin a web around the earth. The World Wide Web has spun a web of fiber optics around the world of optics. But the thing that they failed to realize, that the microbial, the tiny particles that's within the earth has been a worldwide, there's been a wood wide web since man even put a footprint on the planet. We were the last things to be made on this planet. And so we're now attempting to create what was created before we was even created. A communication system that connects the cosmic law, the universal law, and the natural law to the being that we are as we are now. And we are out of order because we have lost our connection to the order of being a human being. We give these names and titles of this color, that color, but it's one thing about the Creator that makes it really simple. When the sun comes up and it shines on everything on the earth, when you all look at the ground, every shadow is the same color. There is no difference. Every shadow is the same color. The trees, the buildings, the people, the animals, the creepy crawlers, every shadow is the same color. So how are we going to undo that? You can't change the color of a shadow when the sun shines on it. But we can change what projects that shadow, what's in that. What is that dark spirit inside of that person that they're trying to hide and what don't be ashamed of? That's what we always hear each other talk about, enlightenment. But you were enlightened if you look at the concept of an egg and a sperm. when that one sperm penetrates into the shell of that egg and it breaks through that barrier, that membrane, it ignites, it produces a spark of light, which becomes the mother's 23 chromosomes and the father's 23 chromosomes come together, and the 23 and 23 becomes 46, and the 46, you put together 4 and 6 is 10, and you are the one. You are 1,000,000 to 1 shot. When what Rumi says, everything in the universe is within you. When will you learn to use yourself? You're looking outside of everything and you making machines that take your knowledge, because computers do not create any knowledge. Everything that a computer has is put into it. It's not, it gives out information, but you have to put it into it first. There is no information, the Wood Wide Web, there is no information in how to grow a blade of grass, because I got a sign over my sink that says any man can count how many seeds are in an apple, but only God can count how many apples are in a seed. Remember I said the acorn turns into flower, you eat it, you become the oak tree. You have the power of the mustard seed. The mustard seed is the tiniest little seed. But when you plant it and it grows, it becomes bigger than an oak tree. We have to understand where our indigenous teachings were. It was very important that they had to disconnect us, because once you understand who you are, no one can take your power. Anyway, that's what I just had to share. I mean, I wanted to do presentation, but our PowerPoint mine didn't come through. So maybe next time. I just had to go off the top of my head. Thank us.
The top of your head was great.
Kwame, you know, I'm just going to say one thing. I am so grateful that I don't live anywhere near you, because if I did, I would never let you go to sleep. You'd be talking to me 24/7, because I never get tired of it. I love the way that you can take these thoughts, these ideas, and wrap them in words that everybody can understand, but in ways that I never thought were possible. Just, you know, it's just amazing to me. It's amazing to me, and that you can do that so effortlessly, like breathing. You know, you just bring that and it moves through you and to us. I was looking at the book titles, and I hope that we can see more of the titles again. If we could have Jody, you could maybe get some of those and put them up, because they are amazing. You know, like God is Red, and Healing the Soul Wound by Eduardo Duran. And Eduardo Duran taught me something really major, just like what Kwame was talking about. You know, we think that the world is so finite, and that we can look at a property and say, oh, that's where the Indians need to live, or that this is there, but it isn't like that at all. And Eduardo Duran taught me about the spiritual aspect of addiction and how that relates into the prisons and everything else. For example, methamphetamine is an entity. He taught me directly with the entity of meth, and to be able to dialogue with that entity about my client, you know, the person that I'm there to help, so that I can learn. Abraham Bearskin taught me from COVID that COVID, there it is, cool. Young and the Sioux Indian traditions. I never even heard of that one. My father worked with Carl Jung. How beautiful is that? Thank you, Kwame. Thank you for that. But, you know, there's so many things that we don't realize. Abraham Bearskin taught me that in the Cree way, COVID is a spirit, and it's called the breath that travels, he said. And it's traveling all around the world at that point in time, 21, 22, traveling all around the world, bringing a message. And Abraham Bearskin said that once we get the message, it'll leave. Well, it's the same way with addiction. It's the same way with, it's here to teach us. Everything is here to teach us. And so the prisons are more than bars. They're more than cement buildings. And I loved what you said, Kwame, about that, about the emotional incarceration is worse than being in a prison. And that is the absolute truth. So as we sit here tonight and we're listening to you guys, and we are so grateful because you are the richness of the wisdom and the intelligence that was given to you. And now you're passing it on to us and those that are listening around in their homes or wherever they are. And then they pass it on and they pass it on. And this is where I mentioned last week that Wayne Dwyer said that for every high vibrational person, we can affect 750,000 lower vibrational beings in the collective. And so the two of you, your words will never stop echoing.
Now,
ever.
Show you something, and I didn't mean to interrupt it.
That's okay. You go right ahead.
Okay, I got to charge up my iPad. But the thing that happens is when I speak, and it touches 72,000 people. When you speak, it touches 72,000 people. When you take our two words and our count two or more together, 72,000 and 72,000, add it up. How much does it come out to be?
144,000.
There you go.
Woo! See what he did? I'm telling you, I don't sleep when I'm anywhere near that guy. That is powerful. That is powerful.
You transmitted frequency and
amazing
energy that will touch, because it has to go out and come back to that person. Yeah. So that means everything in between us, there's 72,000 that will receive, not knowing that they're receiving it, but they're getting the energy and the frequency, because we're all about energy. Yes. This is why it's such a distortion that we have since they created 5G, because it's interfering. Oxygen is 60 hertz. So is 5G. Yes. So it dehydrates your oxygen. This is why we're so thirsty all the time, because you're in a pool of EMFs, electromagnetic frequencies, and it's draining you. But our Creator knew something very powerful when I said that the people of the North live up where the ice is on the Arctic, right? And I said, when the rains come, it brings the memory and consciousness. The Creator knows memory and consciousness in the North, because he knew in a million years, I'm going to have to release that energy again of purity to replenish what is come with man doing what he's doing.
Beautiful, powerful. And so all of those things that have come together in one are just phenomenal. And Romola, I want to say to you, I know what you did with William Commanda. I know that because of you, he was able to broadcast his teachings further and further and further, and you have never stopped doing that for him. Never. That's what you just did tonight for Kwame, too. You were there. You were like the redwood tree, the sequoia. You were there to be able to help him to magnify his message, that vibrational energy of the masculine, feminine, the grandmother and the grandfather. And it's a union that is far surpassing physical connection. And that's what's happened here tonight. I am sitting here drenched. I never sweat. I'm sweating. I'm telling you, the energy is so powerful. We had to put the raccoon out in a cage. We've never put him in a cage before, but he was picking up on you guys, and he was up here taking our house apart while you're talking. And now there's another dog barking. So I just want to thank you guys for everything that you have brought, everything that you have charged us with. And it's that balance. And I want to say that I totally acknowledge that and recognize that with both of you. And I'm so absolutely grateful. Jody, this was the first time that you shared, and I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Bringing in from the Thanksgiving address, you know, the visionary part of that. And thank you for that. All of these teachings that we have been given, we now extend outward in this bowl of light and share it to everyone, wherever you are tonight, wherever you are, and keep on going. Share it, please, with your circles, with your families. Pass this on. We made sure that it's something that everybody can participate in. That's why there's no charge for this. Some of these things charge so much money. It's not about money ever. It's about the richness that we already are having access to because of our elders. Our elders, our grandmothers, you guys are the living treasures, we call you in Hawaii. We are the living treasures that are here for the generations to come, 7 to come, like Kwame says. So with that, I'm going to just turn this time over so that Jody can share the last words that she has. But I want to remind everyone that nothing is over. This is not goodbye. This is see you soon. See you next Monday. Share the like I said, share it with everyone that you can and that you want to, because we are affecting the collective. Nobody can go without seeing this and feel it and not feel it. It's really powerful. So just want to make sure to remind us that this is not a closing. Somebody wrote to me today, 2 words. They texted me. It's finished. And I'm thinking, what is finished? And I realized he had been at Sundance all weekend. And I reminded him, it's never finished. We dance out of the arbor into the world, and we dance then for the people. So just like that, your words, your teachings, they are never finished. They're never over. They're never done. And you brought through William Commanda, and you empowered Kwame, and we all work together with the energy of the collective. So thank you. Thank you, everyone. And I send you my love. Next week, we have 2 people that you guys know. Ted Silverhand is going to be on, and Barbara Brand. And they're going to be on together with that grandmother-grandfather balance of the energies. And so please, everyone, feel free to join us and keep this in your library. These because we are blessed to be able to have this from you. So
can I
share
just one part of something?
Of course.
Okay.
Of course.
This is true. When you educate a woman, you educate, because what did she say? I'm going back to school. When you educate a woman, you educate a nation. When you educate a man, you just give us something to think about.
Oh my God, can you say that too?
I love it.
A lot of great messages.
You're a wise man. You're a wise man. Very wise.
Nyawa Chimagwich to Grandmother Susan for inviting Grandmother's Voice to be hosting this. And the more our conversations began years ago, and even then when I met Grandmother Renee and Grandmother Gail and you, it was like, why me? And I never thought that I would last this long. Let's just say that. I guess I would never last this long thinking this is the work that I will do. And it is so, like, I'm just so honored to sit in this circle and knowing that I'm the next generation. I don't know, to carry these teachings. Keeper. I'm pardon?
We are the elders and you are the wisdom. We're passing the wisdom. So you are the wisdom keeper that we're passing the wisdom to.
Oh, right on. I'm a wisdom keeper now. I love it. Well, I have to say from my heart to yours, all of yours, Nyawa, for your patience and for being here. And, most of our team and volunteers that are part of Grandmother's Voice, they do this work from their heart. And I know that they're watching, whether they're on holiday or sitting at home watching as well. They help create everything that Grandmother's Voice is, led by the grandmothers and the grandfathers. And we're so grateful that we are a part of this circle and that we can support you in any way that we can. Your voices are so important right now, especially for the youth. And thank you for sharing your voices with us tonight And what was spoken here lives beyond this moment. These teachings are rippling forward. They awaken something ancient in us, something that remembers who we are and why we're here. And this circle, like Grandmother Susan said, remains open. The fire's still burning. And we carry it now with humility, with courage, and with love. So I invite you, tend your fire in your own heart. Listen for the voices of your elders. Walk with the ancestors. Speak truth. Be gentle. And return here when the time calls again. You can revisit our website, our Facebook page, our YouTube channels. You can share these links, and every Monday when we do go live, you're able just to pick up that link as it's live and share it. We really want to get this series out there for all the people. There were some really profound messages shared here this evening, and please visit the websites to support and learn more about the elders and the ancestors that we spoke about this evening. And until next time, may your path be lit by the wisdom of the grandmother and grandfather that shared messages today. And may you never forget that you're a part of this story too. Yawa.
Idama.